All right. Hey, everybody. I told you all I was going to do a video um, on this topic, understanding and healing generational wounds. And, listen, I've had people say, well, there's so many other things, good things generationally that we can discuss. It doesn't always have to be about wounds. And you're absolutely right. However, we also need to recognize what the wounds are so we can bring them to our attention and understand how they have manifested and festered in other ways, right? Um, so that we can heal ourselves on a soul level, right? And we'll talk about what that even means. And we can integrate those things that were great that we know and we learned, and create a new ritual for those wounds to heal them. That's one of the ways that we heal generational wounds. We create ritual around something different than what that wound was and what that wound affected. So let's talk about what a generational wound is, understanding it. So generational wounds, they range from, abuse to finances to self-esteem. And these are wounds that have been passed down through generations in your families. And they have sort of become like another family member, right? Because it's like, okay, this is just what it is. And that's the way that it is dealt with. This is just what it is. This is a part of who we are, and that's it. Right? So, for example, in my family, one of the things that we heard all the time and that created a wound for me was about, lack of money, right? Or the difficulty that it is to get money, right? So I grew up with a poor sense of wealth. Okay, so the way that I handled money, the way that I thought about money, the way that I chose to earn it or manifest it, all of those things were affected in myself based on the generations of thought processes around it, right? So I always thought that I had to, as a woman, run around and work hours and hours and hours in order to manifest money and to be wealthy and to be okay. And that's not necessarily the case for women, right? Nothing wrong with hustling, but if we're hustling outside of our passion and purpose, then those kinds of things in our womanliness, then it can create even deeper wound, right? It started with money, but now it's become something else. So, and generational wounds are also, they're familial, but they're also societal. So that means that even in our society, the way that we internalize and ingest things societally, we have wounds from that. So we can use the same example of finances, right? If you grew up in a community where the narrative was about poverty, and because you are from this community, you are impoverished or whatever the case may be, then that is another wound on top of that, where your mind automatically focuses on that statement or that way of seeing things, and then that's the way you internalize it, and it creates that wound in you where you have to now change that narrative and really look beyond what it is that you have been taught and told, so that you can uproot that wound, you can heal that wound, right? And really, again, look at the different ways that it has seeped into your consciousness. So one of these is, going to college and getting into debt. Many of us grow up with that wound. But one thing that I noticed, for example, in my husband's view and vision of things, that's not even something that people from his culture do. They don't believe in going into debt just to go to school. And I've noticed that with the people that I know who come from his country, right? They'll come here, they'll go to school, but they're working and they're going to school so they can pay their bill. They're not taking out loans, right? So it's that mentality. And then we have to get out of that mentality so that we don't pass that same wound. And I know I'm using the word wound, and a lot of people think of wound as something like, I think people think of it as like really dramatic. But a wound is just something where it's like an open, an area that is muddled. An area of your consciousness that is scarred because of what you have been taught, what you have been told, and what perhaps you have seen. And a lot of times these wounds do develop in our youth. Not a lot of times, basically all the time. They develop in our youth by what we hear, what we see. Right? By the time a child is 6, 7 years old, if they had not gotten a solid foundation in who they are, then they probably already have the wounds that they will continue to have, that will continue to be built upon when they're older. This is why the Mommy Evolve Creed is intergenerational healing, starting with you. Because if you are not aware of your wounds, then it is going to manifest in the way that you speak to, that you interact with your children. And they're picking it up without you even realizing it, right? And so this is why understanding these wounds are so critical, so that we can start to heal them. So how do we heal them? Okay. First, let me just say that wounds affect people differently based on what your role is on this earth, right? So I came to this earth with a particular mission. Right. And so there's certain things that happen to me that really, really hurt me deeply to my soul. Right. But that same thing can happen to somebody else. And it didn't hurt them so deeply. It hurt them, but it didn't hurt them so deeply that it affected them to the point where it had a wound that continued to fester. And one of those things, for example, for me is like my relationship with men. Right? My relationship with men, starting with, the men in my family, has been a little shady, to say the least. And what I have learned is that that's because my soul needs to learn certain lessons about my relationship with the opposite sex based on my experiences in my past lives, which I've come to discover I've had some interesting relationship experiences to the point where one of them ended in like tragedy, where I was the perpetrator. And so I know that now I am here to learn and to learn something about my relationship with men. And all of these things are critical to know. Again, these are part of what we do when, you work with me individually or you take any of the group classes. We learn and understand these things because we need to really look at our children's astrological charts. We need to look at our children's past lives and really understand what their purpose for being on earth. And we need to have that mentality of thinking about what is my child's purpose on this earth and how am I going to assist my child in getting to their highest self? Because that is what you do as a parent. I think we're so focused on just survival level that we don't see our children as spiritual beings anymore. We just think about, we gave birth and we got to feed them and clothe them. And that's, yes, you've got to do that. But it's more than that. Get beyond the 3D understanding and get into a different dimension of understanding them. I'm reading this book called Spirit Babies, and that book is amazing. And of course, I'm speaking to women who communicate with spirit babies has been very powerful. But read this book. This book will give you an entirely different perspective on your child. Read my book when it comes out. It will be out. I thought it would be out by the end of this month. However, it takes a lot more to edit and write a book. Anyway, so healing these generational wounds. The number one thing that you have to do is recognize them. I mean, that's the first step to healing anything. You have to recognize it. If you are in a consistent or constant loop in some way, shape, or form of things happening, then it really is going to require your personal attention for you to really understand why you keep on going through this particular event. And it may not be, my teachings and conversations are not really for people who are stuck in certain mindsets. Okay, you really have to be outside of like a religious mindset in order to get it, because I talk about spirituality and things outside of religion. For a lot of people, it's outside of religion. Some of the people who are religious do also, look into quote unquote occultish ideas as well. But you have to recognize that one. So as I said, when I realized that I was having certain loops in relationships with men, I had to really look deeper into why that was happening. And sometimes it's difficult for you to break the habit because it's something that, again, is imprinted on your soul. And so it's going to require a deeper level of spiritual discipline in order to break yourself out of it. Right? When it is a generational wound in your family, it's going to require a deeper level of discipline because your family is going to be afraid to unearth it or, looking at you like you're crazy if you want to, And so that requires a deeper level of strength. So recognizing it, perhaps having to step yourself aside from the people who also have that same wound, okay? So your family is going to be required, so me working on my financial mindset and that wound required me to really not engage with certain family members because I'm doing things completely different. I'm really building wealth. And so for me, I'm not going to be around people who are constantly saying I'm poor and I'm broke. Or I also don't want to be around people who are fronting like they got money. Okay. So I have to put myself in a completely different environment, in a completely different mindset. I have to change my consciousness about it. And that's probably the hardest part. So yes, affirmations, yes, chanting, yes, praying in a way that connects you and shows that you are what you seek. Right? You are what you seek, not taking it outside of yourself, but praying in a way that shows that you are what you seek. So you already are the wealth that you seek. There's a reason why you're seeking it, because it's seeking you, as they say. All right. So that's one of the ways you have to recognize it, and then you have to change the mindset, and you really have to pay attention to how it has seeped into the various areas of your mindset when you start to change your activities, right? So, for example, when, I realized, my money mindset was not on point, yes, I started to do the affirmation, but even in my actions, I stopped purchasing a bunch of clothes just to have a bunch of clothes, and I started to focus on purchasing a few quality items that I would have for a long time. In my business, I started to recognize whether or not I was spending money on items just to be on tools for my business, just to be like someone else in my business, as opposed to spending it on something that I knew within me was the best thing for my business. Because that's what it all comes down to when it comes to money. A lot of people, we spend money based on what other people spend money on. Right? And so without understanding the underlying reason for why someone spent their money the way that they did. And that's what keeps a lot of people in a poverty mindset, because it's like, I want to have that too, as opposed to, no, this is what I want for myself. So unraveling generational wounds, societal generational wounds, it's very, it takes a lot of self-care and really sitting with yourself and thinking about why you're doing what you're doing and how you feel when you're doing what you're doing. Hi, Aya. It says it's crazy how true this is. I got to remember that family consists of people with their own traumas, not just people connected to you by blood. You just said it, honey. You just said it. Okay? People have their own traumas. They have their own focus for being on this earth. This is why it's imperative for you to water your own grass and to really pay attention to what it is that you need. And with you healing your own wounds and speaking the truth about your own wounds, you're helping somebody else to unravel theirs and to really pay attention to theirs. Okay? And that is so critical for us to understand. That builds not only our own individual clearing up of our wounds, but it also builds a rapport and a compassion with other people so that we can really find out who our true family is. If somebody is fighting against you for trying to heal your wounds, and you know that that's not your tribe. It's not your tribe at this time. Those very same people might come back once you have healed your wounds and try to figure out, well, how you do that, right? But they're not going to be with you on the journey. And that's okay, because you'll find other people who can be with you. That's what Mommy Evolve is about. Women who are on the journey to shift things generationally. Okay? Women who are on the journey to shift things generationally, whether you're a mother or not. If you're a woman, you are the mother to whatever child you come in contact with, because you're helping to shape and mold them. That's just what we do. That's communal. That's matriarchal. That's ancient. You know what it was like when we were growing up? We couldn't go down the street and do something crazy because we knew it was some woman that knew our mama that was going to let her know. We need to bring stuff like that back. Okay, I know I do it, but not everybody does. A lot of people like to turn their head and mind their business. So this is just, I just came with this. I came a little bit earlier today than I said that I would, but that's okay. I just wanted to come and give you a little snippet of this and talk about generational wounds. I know last time I talked about how the wound of trust is developed. Again, and all of this starts in your childhood, and that's why these inner child meditations, which I'll be coming with soon, I'll have my inner child meditation and really reconnecting with that young child that was pure and innocent, that was whose soul's purpose and soul's idea of the world got trampled on because they were not able to live out their lives the way that they knew that they should, right? So we end up putting children in this box and, wanting to do certain things a certain way to ease our own lives. But that really creates a lot of contention within a person when that happens. And when we all think about it, when we think about where a lot of our wounds began, they began in childhood because of that confusion that is built in knowing that something else is possible, but being told that and being steered towards doing something else. So we literally need to go back into our childhood and visualize ourselves and visualize our adult selves saying it's okay. And part of healing it is being able to do what our inner child wanted to do before. And our inner child just wants to be free, wants to do our soul's purpose. That's it. I mean, think about children. That's what they want to do. A lot of times when we think that they're being bad or whatever, is something that they're trying to express in the world. Okay, so we need to stop putting those labels on our children, by the way. I can't stand it. Right, so I don't have anything else to say. I just want to come real quick. I'm about to go out, helping a friend look for a place. And I'm excited because I like going to look at different places. Anyway, so please stay connected. We have our mommy brunch call on Sunday mornings. We had a great conversation yesterday. And we just talk. It's just, different women from all over the country, all over the world, really talking about solutions to their life, how they're breaking down barriers and living their lives powerfully. Not from the wound and not from the hurt inner child, but from the responsible woman, the divine woman that she is. So please join us on that call. I also have the Evolve the Inner Mother course starting next week, Sunday. So if you're interested, please go to evolvetheinnermother.launchrock.com. I'll put it here in the innermother.launchrock.com to join us there. I also do individual mentoring to help women and mothers get more organized in their thoughts, to build a practice, a spiritual practice that will resonate in every area of their lives, their organization, and interaction with their children, with their husband. It really does affect every area of your life when you get into your practice with yourself. And I teach you about the various ways to break down these barriers, to connect with yourself, to reconnect with yourself powerfully. I also have a Mommy Magic subscription box that you can get. And the box has crystals, oils, all of these things to support you on your journey through breaking down these barriers and just becoming more trusting of yourself and really understanding your children more deeply. So with that said, you can visit my website again, www.mommyevolve.com. And I do past life readings, so you can get an idea of past life. And the readings are so much more than I just throw a card at you. So much more than that. I give you different tips and tools as well. If you're interested in that, please visit my website, www.mommyevolve.com. And also stay connected in the Intergenerational Healing and Self-Care group over here in Facebook. And I look forward to staying connected with you. I'm here to support you mothers and families in just feeling better about your journey and healing things, shifting things, generationally destroying generational wounds. All right. My daughter is singing, so I got to go. All right, y'all. I will talk to you soon. Peace and love.